It's IB Countdown to Kickoff. Glad to have you with us. The gang is all here. It's the first time the three of us have all been together in a long time with Vince D'Addario and Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers. The other two guys just kind of wrapping up their work duties for the day and, feeling that. I'm in Washington, D.C., actually. I went and did a little trip of the monuments today.
Oh, when's the last time you've been to the monuments? Because they have changed a little bit.
It's been like 14 years, I think.
Wow.
Is what I was calculating since
MLK
we did a little
wasn't
family
there.
trip out here.
MLK wasn't there when you were there, right?
You know what? I don't think I saw MLK today.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned it.
Yeah.
I just kind of did, I did the Washington Monument. Our hotel is about a mile from the Washington Monument.
Oh, wow.
So the team was out doing other things today. So I walked there and then did, like World War II.
Nice.
Walked by Korea, down to the Lincoln Memorial, and then Vietnam Memorial on the other side, and then just kind of came back around. Where's MLK?
Ooh,
Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure on that one. It was there when I chaperoned the old 8th grade DC trip a few years back. So I would say it's probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe even now. So and it was like almost brand new then. So my guess is it was built between the time you were there and the time you came back. It's pretty cool. It's got like MLK like coming out of like the granite, like he's like walking out of it, and it's this massive deal. So it's
I don't remember
pretty
seeing
cool.
That.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Unfortunate. Well, I won't be able to hit it because it's getting dark now.
Sorry. Yeah. I will say the monuments at night are pretty cool now, depending on which mile away.
When we came in last night, we drove by
the
monuments, and it did look cool when it's all lit up and all that kind of stuff.
But anyway, I digress. We're all in 3 different states. That's the deal here.
Yes. And we're getting ready for some football. It is senior day, believe it or not. Notre Dame and Wake Forest this weekend. Is it just me, or is this like one of the fastest football seasons you guys can remember? Did it just fly by us?
I feel like ever since the Ohio State game, the season has went by really fast, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a matter of I've been bouncing around a lot during this season. It feels like I've been all over the place the last few weeks.
That's true.
But yeah, I just feel like ever since the Ohio State game, this season has been on the accelerator.
Yeah, I think having a dog in the fight on Friday nights makes the whole fall season go a little bit faster. You know what I mean? Like it was very similar to when you and I were doing games, and it was like, okay, after work on Friday, we go game, and then the next day we go game, and then, it all kind of flies by. And now I've got that with my kid. And so this season has just gone super fast because high school football, of course, starts, in the middle of August, and I just got done. And, then you get Notre Dame, and it's just like crazy just amount of time. And it's like, it's Friday night and I don't know what to do with myself. And so I'm going to go to a girls' basketball game. So it's like, I got to do something. I can't just sit around. That's not going to work. So,
well, that of course makes it even more interesting once basketball starts up, because as we sit here talking right now, the Notre Dame men are playing, the Notre Dame women are playing again this weekend. And I've been all over the world.
Yeah, you have. That's why it's gone fast for you, man. Like you had a trip of a lifetime.
You guys did a show last time when Notre Dame was playing Clemson, and I was over there in Paris, and it was like 6 o'clock at night when I was trying to watch. I guess I saw most of the second half, so it was like 7:30 at night by the time I was able to watch. But to me, it has like 8 straight games definitely is a grind, but at the same time, it's like, man, where's it gone? It's almost over at this point. But they did lose last time to Clemson.
Yes, they did.
And that shot any chance of a New Year's Six bowl. So like big picture stuff is out. They're ranked 19th in the college football playoff rankings coming into this game. So 2 games left: Wake Forest, Stanford. Is there anything that can happen these last 2 games that can make you guys feel good about this season?
No. I mean, I'll be real flat and plain about it. I mean, look, there's always things as a coach that you can take and you can be positive about, and there's things that you can do. And really, at the end of the day, for me, they need to get to 10 wins. If they can get to 10 wins, you can spin this season as a step in the right direction. It's not a big step. It's not as big of a step as we all wanted coming into the season, obviously. I don't think you're going to learn anything about the team. I don't think you're going to learn anything about, Marcus Freeman, his staff, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. At this point, you're 10 games in, going into number 11. You kind of are who you are. I mean, I hate to steal a phrase from Charlie Weiss, but you are who you are at this point. And again, as a coach, you can take some small things away and you can build on things and you can do all of that. This team has to win 10 games for this to be anywhere close to a salvageable season. And the only way to do that is to win their next 3. And that starts today, Saturday against Wake Forest. So,
right.
I'm going to feel very similar to the way I feel right now, 2 games from now, if they go undefeated. I'll feel so the only difference will be I'll be excited to go to Tampa, Florida. That's it.
Big picture, I don't think there's much that can be done to make me feel good about the rest of the season. On a smaller level, I think that it'll be a good opportunity this week, especially on the offensive line, to maybe figure out a couple things. And just continuing to work in a lot of these young freshmen on the offense. That's like what really is kind of what I'm most excited for, trying to look forward to the most for next season, is a lot of these wide receivers and running backs and, younger tight ends are now getting into the fold on offense. And I think just any amount of experience that you can get going into next season with, the quarterback transition is a huge plus. So that's kind of where I'm putting my cap in terms of what I want to see or what's going to make me feel better about the rest of this season.
Yeah, good points. I mean, we're going to get to see Billy Schrouth. It's sounding like we're going to get to see Ashton Craigs. Right. We'll talk about that, a little bit more in a little bit. So we'll kind of get to gauge maybe a little bit of Notre Dame's future from that perspective. But there aren't a whole lot of I know a lot of people want to see Steve Angeli and all that kind of stuff. I really don't think that's going to happen unless these games turn into a couple of blowout situations based on the way they've played things before, and if they do, then maybe we get to see them. That's fine. It's whatever. But I agree with what Vince was saying. Really, the only thing that's kind of left out there is you win these 2 games and you win a bowl game and you get to double-digit wins. That's the biggest thing. Now, these 2 games do need to look clean, and they do need to look quite honestly, these are 2 bad teams. Wake Forest, a little bit better, at least defensively, than Stanford, but they're 2 bad teams. They've got a combined 6 wins between them or something like that right now. So these need to, from an offensive standpoint, they need to look a lot better. We need to come out of this season at least feeling like there's something good that can be salvaged from the Sam Hartman experience, from the Gerad Parker first season as an offensive coordinator experience. So that to me is kind of it. We know what the defense is. The schedule, the only thing defensible, we can say for this offense, and I'm not using this as an excuse, but the defenses that they played were better during this stretch. We're out of that stretch right now. These are 2 defenses that this offense needs to be demonstratively better against Wake Forest and Stanford here in these next 2 games.
The only, everybody's calling to see Steve Angeli, Kenny Minchie, whatever, right? The only thing that can come of either one of those guys playing, doesn't matter who it is an overreaction to one side or the other. Yeah. Either he's the guy we should have been starting all along.
That's exactly, as soon as you said that, that's the first thing that, if it
he's
goes well.
Garbage. There's a reason he wasn't playing. There's not going to be anything down the middle where, guys, he's not, this isn't the year that either one of them should have started. And so whatever you see over the next 2 games from either one of these guys is it's reps. It's just reps. That's the only thing you can take away. You can't make any kind of judgments positively, negatively. They're just reps, because these kids are going to be 1,000 times different between now, November 17th, November 18th, and August 31st when they go down to Texas A&M. There's going to be so much growth, so much physical growth, so much mental growth. Name the position, quarterback or otherwise, if you see them in the last 2 games, you can't make the kind of judgments that people are going to be making about those players based on what they're going to be next year.
Oh, but they will.
Oh, and that's
You
what
see
keeps
them,
us
they will.
employed. There's no doubt about it. It's just like, guys, just relax and enjoy the ride, man. And I realize not anybody's going to be happy and all of those things. I get it, but man,
I'll
try
tell you
not
what.
to jump off a ledge.
If you're listening, watching, whatever, you can be unhappy all you want, as long as you share, commiserate with us right here. Just join us all off season, these podcasts. Be unhappy all you want. Come, share your venom right here. Let it out. That's all you got to do.
Right.
Quarterback's the position that you never win at. Everyone always thinks that the next guy is always better.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like Vince said, once they get out there, it's a lose-lose. It's like a catch-all. Like, it's either why haven't we been playing this guy, or this guy sucked. That's why we've been playing him the whole season. So quarterback debates are never fun for that reason, and everyone always seems to have the solution except the coaches that are coaching the players.
The only argument I would give you is the other position that is like that is kicker. You're either the hero or you're the GOAT. There's no in between. There's no in between. So, I had to have that talk with my kid the other day. It's like, this is what you signed up for, dude. Like,
our old buddy Reggie Brooks, who doesn't consider the kickers part of the team. So,
he can consider that all he wants, but there's plenty of game-winning kicks out there. So
that's right. I'm dealing with a rear window situation here, by the way, because
what are you seeing?
I'm in a hotel, but across the way, I thought it was another hotel, but turns out it's actually an apartment building or condos or whatever. So the guy across the way just got up and left. He was kind of looking at me, like, what are you doing over there, kind of thing. And then he shut his lights off and left. So,
by the way,
everyone's alive right now. No one's,
one of the best movies of all time, Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window.
I'm surprised they haven't remade that.
Oh, it's so good.
I know.
And you could very easily remake it too with all the technology, that we have right now.
Yeah.
Jesse, have you ever seen the movie?
I don't think so.
Well, you need to. It is.
I'm just confused of what you could have done to upset that guy.
I don't think I upset him. It's just that, it's my room is lit. And he's the only guy that I've seen over there. There's the apartment above him. They've actually got their Christmas tree. And that's what tipped it off to me initially about it's not a hotel. It's an apartment. Sure. They've got a Christmas tree already lit up over there.
Excessive.
Yeah. All right. So you may have seen this, what we're going to talk about next, floating around on social media this week. We've talked about the problems with the Irish offense. The three of us haven't talked about, like anything that we're talking about today. So I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on some of this. I think that this is pretty interesting myself. I don't know what you guys think, because I kind of tease it a little bit, but it's from Gerad Parker's media session this week. He took 10 questions from the media, and this question was asked a little bit more than halfway through it. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the question and the answer verbatim. Okay, so you can full context here, because it's the snippet in the middle that that has been floating around out there on social media. I find it even more interesting when you look at the question was asked and how he got to the answer to me. So here's the question. Was it an impossible task to get the chemistry between Sam Hartman and the receivers where you need it to be based on the youth and the injuries? That makes it tough on a quarterback, I would imagine. So that's the question.
Good question.
So here's Gerad Parker's answer. Quote, "It's fair to him. It's hard. With that being said, we all know society don't give a bleep. But there's some realities to it. I swear if you all would have looked at it in a man game, because I did. I try to keep up with Katie Lonergan and make sure of what you guys, because I respect your all's job, piece of it, and questions. You lose play actions when it becomes pieces of a man game. That's what that game was. So there's no eye conflict. If I'm guarding Pete, I'm guarding Pete. So what's happening in action throws? They don't care. We lost that some when you do that in a man game. In a zone game where you're able to find some windows and there's a little bit more room for windows to sit in air in some ways. In a man game, precision, accuracy, route depth, ball location, all those things are critical. You saw some pluses of that when we did it coming out of the second half and got through those things. Then you saw a good D coordinator check some stuff and go middle of the field, close zone 2. He played the game of chess on us. It's there. I'm going to be honest with you. But at the same time, we're pushing like hell to make sure we meet the mark so we can be there, end quote. I tell you what, Gerad Parker, because he's got like that Southern twang and he talks with, like the colloquial, and like you should try transcribing some of his stuff sometime. But it's like even harder to read is like you just, kind of heard me say, it's like, because it's very, but so again, there it is. There are multiple things there. And first of all, Gerad Parker has Notre Dame's, that's the Katie Lonergan. She's their media relations, the football media relations person. Gerad Parker has Notre Dame's media relations tell him what the media is talking about. So what do you guys think about that?
I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's actually a better thing because he's prepared and he is ready to talk about relevant conversations that I think that the media and the fan base are most curious about. And so if he's prepared for those, that's fine because he's actually going to give a better answer and not just kind of, talking off the rip essentially. So I don't mind that because of being prepared.
No, that's true. And that's obviously the reason for doing it. But at the same time, it's like, how many coaches do you hear say, I don't pay attention to the media?
They're
and
full
blah,
of crap.
Blah, blah.
They're full of crap.
That's right.
They're lying.
Marcus Freeman at his press conference today or not today, but earlier this week, he had obviously prepared for a few things. So it's obvious that at the very least, they're getting feedback on what's being
maybe
said.
The bye week helped in that because they had more time to prepare for this type of situation. Because obviously without a bye week, you're just rolling into the next opponent. You're kind of putting everything in the rearview mirror.
We know that Notre Dame, whoever you want to put under that category, I'll just say Notre Dame reads what's out there. They read, they listen. It's all out there. We know this is a fact. So it doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form. And I agree with Jess that part of that is so that they can be prepared for, what might be coming as a question or whatever. And, there's also opportunities to talk to certain media members about what they're writing and not in a disparaging way, but just like, hey, why don't we talk about this? And then you can get my perspective on it, that kind of a thing, just so that there isn't a bunch of false narratives out there. I do know that happens too, right? And so the only way to know that you're correcting a false narrative or to reach is reaching out and or reading and listening to what is being said.
No, very true.
And I have no problem with that. I think that's
I'm not saying I have a problem.
Oh, I know you don't. I know you're not.
It's like, they'll typically stand up there and tell you that they don't pay attention to anything. And
I actually appreciate the fact that he's being honest. Like, because since I have been following Notre Dame football from a media standpoint, the coaches know exactly what's going on out in the media.
And this is one of the few times, this is one of the few times you'll ever hear somebody say it publicly. Like you very rarely hear them come forth with that. And again, it's not like he was being asked about that. He volunteered it, which is
he volunteered.
It's just very rare. It's just very rare that you see.
It's like it's funny because he volunteered almost everything that he said, and none of it had anything to do with the question that was asked.
And that's kind of what I'm leading to with this, is because he was not being asked anything specifically about, the Clemson game plan, and he launched into the stuff about why couldn't he use play action. He was definitely not asked about play action. None of the questions that he was asked were about why aren't you using play action more. Now, it came up a couple weeks ago, and he said, of course we want to get to that, and all that kind of stuff. But he uses the fact that Clemson was playing man-to-man defense as a reason for not using play action. And now, we've all been around football for a long time. Vince coached for a long time. Offensive coordinator, Jesse played his whole career. It's been a long time since I played, but Jesse played defense. It was his primary position, middle linebacker. his whole career, through college. So have you guys ever heard of man-to-man defense affecting whether or not play action passes are effective?
The short answer again is no. I have never heard that before. Now, I think he didn't. In my opinion, I'm trying to be the guy, the glass is half full guy here. Okay, but I think that what he was trying to say is more like outside receivers, right? Like defensive backs aren't paying attention to what's happening necessarily in the backfield, like specifically the corners, like, because when you're playing man, you've got your back to the quarterback, you're following the guy around. That part, I believe that's what he was trying to say. Now, that has nothing to do with linebackers. That has nothing to do with safeties. Like,
yeah, the whole purpose of a play action pass is to, at a minimum, freeze the safety and the linebacker, if not get them to bite up a few steps to get them out of position, so 100%. You have better advantages on the back end or in the middle, 100%. Wherever it happens to be, whether it's man-to-man or zone or whatever it happens to be. So
I don't think he explained himself very well. Is my personal opinion. I just don't. That was a very poor explanation of what he was trying to get across.
I have never heard, that kind of thing before of, hey, I know there's certain things you can accomplish compared to man versus zone, obviously. But I've never heard it, kind of negate any sort of play action, type plays. And I actually have a cool graphic that I would like to pull up. That
do you now?
Yeah, that
are you bringing surprise whiteboard on us?
No, it kind of. I found I have to give some credit out here. I'm always looking at Twitter and stuff, and there was this kind of graphic that was published from. Data came from ESPN Stats, and it was from 2019, so it could be a little bit outdated, but I just thought it was cool to kind of bring up for this discussion. So I'll bring it up and kind of talk through it here a little bit, and we can kind of talk about what I'm seeing. So let me know if you can see my screen, first of all.
Well, the answer was yes, but it was us.
But it's us. Yeah, we're seeing ourselves.
Oh, hang on one second. I know how to fix this.
Okay. I'm glad you do.
I had to turn on another screen. It doesn't like when I'm presenting on the same screen that I'm also broadcasting from. So slight delay, but we're almost there. Okay. Tell me if you can see this now.
Okay, this looks better.
Yep.
Okay.
You might want to blow that up a little bit.
Okay, I'll try my best. Well, I guess we'll start down here with zone. So this is data that's compiled about depth of targets along the x-axis and completion percentage along the y-axis. This data comes from 2019, so again, it might be a little bit old, but I would assume that the trends would probably still hold somewhat true. And so they're saying at a depth of 10 yards per target, and that's the thing. This top curve is play action passes. This kind of teal looking curve.
Don't even try to explain the graph. Just explain to us what it's saying. Don't even worry.
What it's saying is that
because you got to remember, a lot of people aren't going to be able to see the graph, so it means nothing to them. And graphs mean nothing to me either. Like, I never understand these. I was like, just do this. Pretend you're talking to Homer Simpson. Dumb it down as much as possible. And I'm talking about for Vince and I. I'm not talking about our listeners, but mostly me.
So depth of target on a play action pass at 10 yards usually yields a just south of 75% completion percentage. If you look at man coverage, same sort of play action, same depth, 10 yards, you can see that percentage drops to around, instead of probably being at like 70%, you're looking at more so, I would say like 65%. So there's about a 5% decrease in play action passes man versus zone. And 5% decrease that favors zone. And that's at a depth of 10 yards target. At a depth of 20 yards target, in zone, you have about a 55% chance of completion. And then at a 20-yard target in a man concept, using play action, you have just about a 55% completion. And so these curves essentially are showing, at various depths of target intervals, what the completion percentage is, man versus zone. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just kind of showing that there's really no difference between the two.
Well, I was going to say, when you go 20 yards, which is, again, when you're talking about getting the safety involved, affecting the safety with play action, when you're talking 20 yards, obviously the farther you go downfield, the lower the percentage is going to be anyway. So if they're both 55%, like you said, there's no real difference when you're talking about throwing the ball downfield, man versus zone.
And then at the 10-yard depth per target, like I said, you have better chances in zone, yes, but it's not marginally better. We're talking probably like a 5% kind of window that it might be better. So long story short, what he's saying, I just didn't know if I completely agreed with. And so I kind of went and researched myself, and luckily someone put these nice graphs together that I was able to read. And yeah, it's just basically between man and zone, there's no difference in play action, a whole like marginal, like you wouldn't be able to find standard deviations between the two. And that's ultimately what I was trying to get at. So I hope my graphics were fun. I hope it was something different.
So
thank you,
agree.
Professor.
Yes, Professor Jesse. I appreciate everything that you bring to the table. Here's the problem. Sam Hartman's not good at play action. He completes 52%.
I mean, is this just the real? Is this just the real reason that they're not using it?
That's
he can
what it is
say
to
man
me.
to man, whatever. It's just because Sam Hartman is not good at it.
That's what it is to me, because there's about a 10% difference in completion percentage, play action versus regular passes for Sam Hartman, and it's usually the other direction,
right?
And it's not that for him. And so, if you're an offensive coordinator, are you going to call more of what he's not good at? Or are you going to call less of what he's not good at?
Right.
I mean, and so
I can get behind that. And again, they don't want to throw Sam Hartman under the bus and say, look, Sam Hartman's not good at play action, and so we're not doing play action. I get that. But like this just made things that explanation, especially when he wasn't asked about, but I guess he was asked about Sam Hartman, and maybe that's what led him to the play action. It's like like wanting to say it without saying it, kind of thing, I guess.
I feel like that's the way. I feel like that's where things are. And he just gave a really poor explanation, trying not to say, hey, our quarterback's just not good at play action. That's just where we are. And so stop asking for play action because we're not going to run it.
It just seems weird because, I get he was in a system where you don't do that, the slow mesh and all, and we're going to see it this weekend when, yeah, I know. But it just seems like such a basic part of football, a play action pass that I don't know. Maybe I think Jesse and I, or was it Jesse and I or Vince and I talked like we're, again, you do it right. You're turning your back to the defense and then you kind of have to like refine the defense and maybe that's what it is. Just the eye action is just too much for him. But again, like if he wants to be a pro quarterback, that's something that you're going to have to be better at, I guess.
Yeah.
So at the very least, this was a learning experience for him this season. But that part of it, and it's just so frustrating watching this offense because when you are such a good running football team and you've got someone like Audric Estim&e and you're not able to capitalize on something like that, it's a big part of the arsenal, I think, that you're taking away. And that's why it keeps coming up, obviously.
Well, and he does need to be better at it because, a pro style offense, especially in the NFL, you better be good at play action because that's what's going to get your guys open. I mean, unless you've just got really good one-on-one guys and, obviously the talent level or the talent gap severely decreases once you get to the NFL. So if he wants to be a successful NFL quarterback, that's a part of his game that's going to have to get better.
Yeah, I agree with you, Vince, because, like you talked about, to me, it's the separation difference between defensive backs and wide receivers in the NFL because of that talent gap that you just talked about. It shrinks, and so does the separation. And so offenses in the NFL need more plays like play action because that's just a little bit more of separation or a little bit more of like a, maybe a 6-inch window that the quarterback can fit the ball into now. And so if you want to be a successful quarterback, mastering play action is something you have to do. Yeah. And it's very obvious that Sam isn't as good at it, as they probably would want him to be, because now your run game isn't as effective. And I feel like you can't nearly push the ball kind of vertically as much as you would like to.
Okay, so here's Marcus Freeman in his Thursday media Zoom session. He was asked about so many of his wideouts being more effective out of the slot, as slot receivers as opposed to as outside receivers.
I think that's the common theme the conversations I've had with our offensive staff is that because a individual is maybe suited for a certain position that we have depth at, like we have to be creative and find ways to get that person or those people on the field to have success. Like what are their skill sets and how can we utilize them in different positions, right? And maybe I'm not a tall, long receiver that you usually look for on the outside, but they have a skill set that if we feel like they're one of our best, then we got to find a way to get them on the field at the same time, but then ask them to do things that they're suited for. And that's, to me, always the challenge, is that you don't have a system that you fit this certain individual into that position. It's okay, get your best 11. How can I find ways to put them in different positions, shift, motion, and the offense and defensively, right? But to get them on the field and create a system or a structure that has your best players on the field. And I think that's the great challenge in coaching. Going back to my defensive coordinator days, I hated to recruit. I didn't like the idea of recruiting to just a position. I liked it to recruit to talent level and to really adapt whatever I was doing as a defensive coordinator around that talent level, because you can't have your best players on the sideline because they're 3 deep at one position. To me, you got to be creative and to put those guys on the field and realize what their strong suits are and put them in a position to be successful. And to me, the best coaches find a way to do that.
Okay, so there's Marcus Freeman talking about those wide receivers. You heard what he said. Is that what Notre Dame has been doing offensively?
They have attempted to do that offensively, but they're terrible at it. That's the problem.
Yes.
Okay. So here's the reality of the situation, right? They're outside receivers. We've got Jaden Greathouse. Well, Jaden Greathouse isn't an outside receiver, but that's where he's been playing the last 5 games, and that's why he hasn't caught a ball.
Jaden
okay?
Thomas, Jaden Greathouse, Jordan Faison, and Chris Tyrie are the 4 slots. Like those are the 4 main guys, but they're all slot receivers. That was the point of the question.
Because the outside receivers are all hurt, right, or ineffective. Okay, right. and that's so Colsey's an outside receiver, hasn't played pretty much all year. Thomas is an outside receiver. That hamstring has clearly bothered him most of the year.
But Thomas is still better as a slot receiver, which we saw from him last year.
Absolutely. And Merriweather obviously has been ineffective for myriad of reasons.
He should be the primary outside guy that's helping.
They move Jaden Greathouse to the outside. He's not an outside receiver, but here's the problem. The outside receivers aren't being taught how to get off press man. They're not being taught how to, their top ends aren't very good at their routes. Like they're getting open sometimes, but not enough consistently where they're a threat in any way, shape, or form. And so, yes, ideally you can move guys around. You can put slot guys outside. You can put outside guys in the slot. You can, create mismatches and do all of those things. They're not being coached well enough, in my opinion, to be able to do that. They're just not. And you've got your most talented guys playing slot. And when they're in the slot, they're very effective. But you can't just have slot receivers. Like, it has to be more than that. Right. But you got to coach up those guys if they're going to be moving around. And I just don't think they're being coached up properly.
So listening to Marcus Freeman say that, I kind of got a little upset because I felt like it was very hypocritical to what he said in his Monday press conference. His Monday press conferences was like, oh, it's not easy enough just to move plays around or that kind of thing. But then he's calling for, based on your personnel, you have to be able to adapt to get them the ball. And I just feel like they haven't done that offensively. I feel like they haven't put together. I mean, listen, they've had these injuries. They've had to play a slew of young wide receivers who might not be able to run the best routes. I feel like you have to do more schematically, knowing that in mind, maybe putting guys in trips bunch, maybe putting guys in doubles bunch on each side. So there is no slot or outside receiver and I guess there is still a slot or an outside wide receiver, but when you're bunched up in trips or some sort of, doubles look, I feel like it's easier to mask who's the slot and who's the outside guy. And if you're lining up in the same position, I think it's harder for the defense because one guy can go one way, one guy can go the other way. And I feel like if, when you have guys like Chris Tyrie and Faison, and if you're not going to utilize outside guys, just play everyone like a slot and find formation. I feel like you can do more formation wise, getting lined up to help out some of these deficiencies that we've seen so far or lack of production with the outside wide receivers. But all he talks about is staying in your base formation. So you can't ask for change, but also say we need to stick to base formations.
The Tyrie post-touchdown is an example of what Jess was just talking about, because you had 3 receivers on that side. Tyrie and Faison were both inside. Tyrie goes post, Faison takes the safety to the outside. Boom. You've got a touchdown pass. It's, just simple. I mean, you can't obviously do that, that same concept all the time. I'm just using that as, again, as an example of what Jess was talking about. You can do different things, and Jesse and I talked about this earlier this week, Vince. Chris Tyrie is their best offensive playmaker, aside from, as a receiver specifically.
Oh, yeah.
But,
he's definitely got the best explosive rate.
Right.
Explosive play rate.
He only has one game this season where he's got 4 receptions, and that was the loss to Clemson, where the offense, he's averaging 2.3 receptions per game. This guy needs to be targeted at least 10 times. He needs 10 targets per game at least.
Yep.
And that's where they are. He's the playmaker, and I get it. He's a converted running back and all that different stuff, but
hand him the ball in a reverse. There's a million different things you could do with it.
You've got to get the ball in his hands. You've got to get the ball in his hands where you're at least intending to get him the ball 10 times per game.
Right.
And let the offense run through him. And I think if you do that, then that also potentially opens up things for other guys in the process.
Absolutely. You got to get your playmakers the ball, and it's even more so in an inept offense, at least in the from a numbers standpoint. I mean, what, 5 or 6 possessions in the Clemson game and 40 total yards? Get your playmakers the ball. It's not that complicated of a situation, because what you're doing is not working.
Right.
And Jesse's 100% correct. You can still move guys around. You can do different things. You can scheme. This is college freaking football. You can scheme guys open.
Right.
It doesn't.
And that's again, coming back to Tyrie, you should be able to scheme him, especially with the speed and the agility and everything else that he has.
Yes, 100%. You should be able to do that in college. You can do it in high school. You can do it in college. It's a lot more complicated in the NFL. I get that, because you're dealing with top level guys. But
college. The NFL offenses all have the best NFL offenses all have an alpha dog receiver who they are getting the ball to double-digit times per game, and it is driving them. A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and on and on and on. They're doing it. Where, as you said, it should be harder in the NFL, but they're doing it. If they can do it at that level, college offenses.
Yeah, and the 49ers, it's they find a way to get the ball to McCaffrey 50 different ways in the game. Yeah. They hand the ball off to him. He catches screens. He catches passes out of the slot. That's what makes Shanahan special. Is he has guys, he knows their talents, and he schemes around that essentially, right? He's not forcing a scheme on something that's not going to work. And that's been a little bit of the frustrating part. If you have outside wide receivers who aren't effective, then do things more schematically where you're bunching them up. So you don't know who the true inside or out wide receiver is until maybe 5-10 yards after the play is developed. So that's where my frustration lies a little bit.
All right. So it's Notre Dame and Wake Forest. Sam Hartman against his old team. They're 4-6. Interesting. The last meeting between these two teams, 2018.
I was there.
Were you really?
Yep.
You were at that game? How did you end up there?
Game.
How did you end up there?
I'm pretty sure it was at Notre Dame, and it was
No, this was at Wake Forest. This was at
Mm.
Wake Forest. I think
was
you were
gonna
there
say.
probably the year before.
Was the year
that.
before when Book actually made his debut at
He
home?
made his debut in 2018.
Well, he made his starting debut in 2018.
Starting debut.
Right. But he goes on to become Notre Dame's all-time winningest quarterback. And in the meantime, a freshman named Sam Hartman is playing in his 4th career game for Wake Forest. And now here you go. Next time they play 5 years later, Hartman facing his old team. So just some perspective on how long it's been since Sam Hartman has been playing college football. That was his 4th career game at that point. Is there an advantage for Wake going up against the quarterback that they had for 5 years?
I think the only thing that you would have advantagely is you might know weaknesses or things that you've seen in film that trip up Sam Hartman. Like, you know, if you're an offensive coordinator that has, or sorry, you would ask the defense, you know, based off of old film, what are some things that we can do to maybe trip up Sam? I think that's the only thing potentially, but I don't really see it as an advantage either way because it's just completely different offenses, right? And so
Bingo.
I just don't think you can draw a lot of parallels at the end of the day of this is a clear advantage. I just think there might be things, you know, that trip up Sam, like, hey, like he sucks at cover 2 disguise, or when there's a robber in the middle of the field, we really saw that he struggled, like that sort of stuff. But in terms of offense to offense, not a lot of parallels.
I guess if the fact that Sam Hartman performed better against Clemson when he was with Wake Forest than he did, you know, with a better team at Notre Dame, you know, doesn't kind of spell it out for you at this point. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean the Wake Forest defense was going up against the slow mesh Sam Hartman. I mean, yes, there's a few things that can translate, but it's not much, man. It's really not much. And so I don't think there's really that much of an advantage there at all. And how often, you know, I don't know anything about how Wake Forest does their deal, but like how often were the ones going up against the ones, you know what I mean? In full 11 on 11, you know, on a daily basis and things of that nature. I just don't see that there being really, the only advantage would maybe be from a coaching standpoint, from like, you know, Dave Clawson knows what Sam Hartman likes to do, or, you know, something along those lines.
Tendencies, strength and weaknesses.
Yeah,
you know, like
but that's it, man. And I don't even know how much of an advantage that even is, to be honest with you. So I don't think it's a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a whole season in this offense on film at this point.
Exactly.
Well.
Exactly.
So the other side of the ball, Wake is going to have a first-time starting quarterback, Michael Kern, in this game. And Kern is only a year younger than Hartman. He was a freshman in 2019 when Hartman was a sophomore. It's like they just grow 5th and 6th year quarterbacks out there at Wake, apparently. But you know, he came off the bench to relieve Mitch Griffiths in a loss to Virginia Tech earlier this season. He's only played in 2 games this year, Virginia Tech and NC State. He's played in 15 games in his Wake Forest career, 679 career passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Here's what Clawson said, quote, "I think we need to see what he can do the rest of the year, then make a decision on what we're going to do moving forward at quarterback. We hope he plays really well, albeit against a really good defense. This will be a tough week to throw for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns, but we need him to manage the offense, make good football plays, protect the football. You have to stop going backward before you can go forward," end quote, from Dave Clawson. To me, guys, this is just like you're feeding red meat to the Lions. It seems like with Notre Dame's defense out there against a first-time starter who's played in a handful of games over the last 5 years.
Yeah, this game feels a lot like the last Notre Dame home game, in my opinion. I think it's going to follow the same trajectory of the Pitt game. I think the defense is going to dominate and do its thing, and it's going to make the offense's life a little bit easier, or not even a little bit. It's going to make their life a lot more easier. And it's just, I think, going to take away some of the pressure overall that the offense is, you know, or criticism that the offense has seen throughout the season is when your defense plays like that, it's easy to have an offensive day. So I think that's very similar of kind of game trajectories of how this one might go.
Well, and I think you know, even that statement alone by Dave Clawson is putting a lot of pressure on this Kern's kid. And
I know.
Like, you know, well, we're going to see how he plays against one of the best defenses in the country. And that's what we're going to decide on.
Base our decision on the future. Yeah.
Like, dude, like, come on, man. Give him, I don't know. You're setting this kid up for failure is what you're doing. And okay, he's a fifth-year senior and all of that, but he's played in 15 games and, not many this year, unfortunately. And so you're setting him up for a colossal amount of failure against a defense that is looking to, avenge kind of what happened last week or 2 weeks ago, last game, and everything that went down against Clemson. And we've seen what this defense we've seen what this defense can do, man. And this is a underpowered offense going up against a very high-powered defense, and it just spells disaster to me for Wake Forest. It just does. And
I feel like the biggest question is just how Hartman sort of deals with everything, because it's such a unique situation. I didn't realize this until this week. He is only the fourth Notre Dame player ever to play against a team that he played with previously. And Javonte Jean-Baptiste was the third to do it. He did it against Ohio State earlier this week. Alohi Gilman for Navy. Can you name the fourth guy?
Jack Cohn never played against Wisconsin.
I bet you'll never get it. I could give you 20 guesses. Probably give you 100 and you guys would never
How
get
far
it.
back are we talking?
Just a few years. Amir Carlisle played against USC.
USC. Yep.
Those are the only four guys. And Sam Hartman's going to be the fourth, so it's senior day and it's Hartman going against his old team.
I feel that's the biggest thing for this game is the management of emotions, right? You don't just, you're not in a relationship with someone for 5 years and go someplace the next year and not have any sort of feelings towards, everything that you established before that. He spent a good chunk of his career there. And then also on the flip side it is senior day. It is his last official home game. And I think it is like the emotions of realizing, your career is really coming to an end because of senior day. Like that's the ultimate, indication, right? Like I feel like that's more so of a talking point. This game is Sam Hartman's management of a lot of different emotions that are going to be going on.
And he's a sixth-year senior, obviously. I just feel like it'll be a lot of pregame buzz about it. And then once the game starts, it'll be football as usual. Who knows? Obviously he hasn't played well at certain places, but
you hope so.
He has.
You hope so.
He has.
A lot of these senior day games have started slow. They've done better though the last couple of times. 99-0, the last two senior day scores in Notre Dame's favor. So
it's going to be more of the same.
Things have worked out.
Yeah,
I think so as well. Even though Vince still has not predicted the Notre Dame offense in Vince's defense, none of us have. But Vince has been all in on what Notre Dame's offense should do the last.
You're not wrong.
It hasn't worked out that way.
You're not wrong. This offense has let me down, and a lot of other Notre Dame fans.
That's right.
That's let down my FanDuel account as well.
It's like I don't know how many times we can go to Sam Hartman's touchdowns. That will come up here in just a minute. Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's do it.
I'm always ready, baby.
So, will Sam Hartman have more touchdown passes than Xavier Watts has interceptions in the next two games?
This should be an easy one, though, right? Like this should be an easy one. First of all, if offenses are throwing anywhere near Xavier Watts, they should be fired on the spot. Offensive coordinator, you're fired.
It's like Benjamin Morrison last year.
Done. Get out of there. Hand over your headset. It's over.
Last three games, Xavier Watts has 5 interceptions. Sam Hartman has 2 touchdown passes.
I knew you were going to come with some actual status on that.
And unfortunately, he's got 4 interceptions as well. I could have gone the negative route with this question. I'm like, who's going to have more interceptions? But I went with touchdown passes instead.
Ouch.
So,
yikes.
I'll be quick about this one. This is redemption. I think you're looking at 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns out of Sam Hartman.
Ooh, say that again.
300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns.
See, I can't.
No way. Not a chance.
We'll save the game props here for a minute. I don't see him.
No chance.
Yeah.
No chance that happens. But I do think that because isn't the question the rest of the season? right? The next 2 games. Yeah. So
Next
the
2
rest
games.
of the regular,
Not
rest of
just
the
this
regular
week.
season.
Next 2 games.
Yeah, next to the regular
I'm putting it out
season.
there. He's getting 3 touchdowns in this next game. Xavier Watts isn't sniffing 3 interceptions the rest of the season.
I still think Sam gets at least 4 touchdown passes in the next
Yeah.
couple of games. I think he gets to 22. I think 22 is going to be his number. Watts, like as much as he's been a ball magnet, I don't think that he's going to get 4 more interceptions in the
4
next
and 2.
games.
4 and 2.
4 and 2? Okay.
4 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Ooh.
Meaning Xavier Watts is going to get 2 picks, not Sam Hartman's
Oh,
gonna
okay.
throw
That's what I was
2.
like, dang, you're telling me how many Sam Hartman picks there's going to be?
No, because I can't do that to myself. I can't.
On the same subject, fill in the blank. It's blank that Xavier Watts is a finalist for the Bronco Nagurski Defensive Player of the Year award.
It's about freaking time he got a little bit of respect. That's what it is. Thank goodness, because he has flown so far under the radar for a guy that's leading the nation in interceptions. It's unbelievable to me. You never hear anybody talking about Xavier Watts.
It's a preseason to postseason surprise. If you told anyone at the beginning of the season that Xavier Watts would be a finalist for this award, I think you would say that there's the potential to do it, but I don't think that anyone thought he would actually follow through and have this sort of season. So I find it to be surprising, but I also agree with you, Vince, at the same time. It's well-deserved. It's well-earned. He's obviously one of the best defensive backs in the country. He's and the thing is, some of his interceptions you might deem, maybe luck or just, tips or whatever they might be.
You got to be in the right place.
You got to be in the right place. But also
Right.
what I'm getting at is there's also a lot of skill-based interceptions. I think that a lot of his interceptions come from just being a good defensive back. He's not just they're not just little gifts falling out of the sky. He's doing his part of making these plays.
Look, we've all been around sports long enough. Preparation breeds luck. Like you can call it luck, whatever. But if you're prepared and you're ready to go, you're in the right place, ball's going to find you
100%.
sometimes. And he's been exceptional along those lines. And, like my answer was kind of along the lines of what Jesse's saying. Like, remember just like a little more than a year ago, this guy was like, what is he? Is he a receiver? Is he a defensive back? What exactly is this guy? And now he's one of the best defensive players in the country. He's leading the nation with 7 interceptions, which is nuts because like we wouldn't have even like at the beginning of the season, you'd say, if Xavier Watts gets a couple of interceptions, great. Benjamin Morrison coming off the year that he had last year, you wouldn't have even said Watts is was going to be the best defensive player on his own team. You would have went with Morrison on that. Now here's Watts, potentially the best defensive player in the nation. Well-deserved, like unassuming.
Love it.
Low-key guy. Awesome year that he's had, and hopefully that continues. So, fill in the blank again. Irish left tackle Joe Alt is a finalist for the Lombardi Award, which goes to the nation's top lineman. It's blank that Georgia tight end Brock Bowers is also a finalist for the award.
So, Irish left tackle Joe Alt being a finalist for the Lombardi Award is expected. And I hate the word expected because really you should not have, you should have expectations, but like I feel like it's never fair for some of this stuff to be like, we expect you to get this award. And if you don't, like it's, this big, huge, massive deal, but it's definitely more expected in comparison to what we've seen with Xavier Watts. Everyone knew preseason that Joe Alt was a potential top 5 draft pick, definitely a top 10 draft pick. He's definitely probably the top offensive lineman, if not, you could say second best lineman, whatever it might be. But I don't think that Brock Bowers deserves to be a finalist for this award at the end of the day for 2 reasons. One, Brock Bowers
see if you hit it.
Is not even a tight end. He's a wide receiver that just plays the tight end position. And 2, tight end is not an offensive line or defensive line position. You have far less responsibilities than a traditional lineman. And so the fact that he's not even a true lineman and that tight ends, in my opinion, shouldn't even be considered for the award, I feel like that's a double whammy for Brock Bowers. And that's just that's not biasy hate. That's just my personal opinion on a tight end getting a lineman award.
I don't know why you're apologizing.
Yeah, don't apologize for the right opinion.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Look, tight ends aren't offensive linemen. Period. End of discussion. They're just not. And Brock Bowers is even less of a tight end than normal tight ends because he's never attached. He's never attached. So he's not blocking like an offensive tackle is. He's just not. And so
Vince, when's the last time you saw a jet sweep go to a tight end in the NFL? Like a true jet sweep.
Exactly. Thank you. Or to a left tackle.
That's what I mean.
He should be judged for this particular. So let's just say that tight end should be involved in this award. Then he should be judged on the same criteria as to what makes a good left tackle as to what makes this good tight end. I want to see him blocking on the perimeter against a 6'5", 270 defensive end who's trying to make us, move around him. He's not going to do that because you're not putting him in that position.
Right. And that's
terrible.
It's dumb enough that they combine offensive and defensive linemen for this award. Like when Oliver a few years back won the award, remember? And Quentin Nelson, who was also up for it, who was obviously the best offensive lineman in the nation, didn't get anything that year because a defensive lineman won it. Now you're going to throw tight ends into the mix as well.
Stupid.
It is baffling. It is baffling that a tight end ends up in this mix. That's right. That's exactly right.
There's already the nation's
John
best
Mackey
tight
award.
end.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there is the best tackle award. I think there is one for interior linemen, so maybe there is for tackles as well. But at the end of the day, tight ends are not linemen. You're not. You're a hybrid of the two.
If Bowers wins this, which he probably will, it's just
because they love him.
It's terrible.
Total sham. Total sham.
That's
How do you
terrible.
find a way to give this guy another award? Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Terrible.
So Rocco Spindler's out for the year with an MCL knee injury. Billy Schrouth will start at right guard. Ashton Craig looking like he's going to start at center because Zeke Correll is in concussion protocol. Scale of 1 to 10. What's your confidence in the Irish offensive line in this game against Wake Forest?
All right, I'll go.
Stunned and speechless.
Yeah, I was waiting for Jess to go. That's okay. I'll say like a 6.5. I think that's where I'm at. The offensive line just hasn't played great last few games. They just haven't. And now you're going to insert 2 new guys into the mix. Offensive line is all about chemistry and, working together and all of these. And you're going to add 2 brand new guys who are right next to each other as well, which I think is also part of it. And so it's going to be rough at times. Now, I don't think Wake Forest, they're not world beaters, obviously, but they've got a couple kids that can play the game and play the game at a high level. And so, my confidence level is somewhat low, but it's only because of the way the offensive line has played for the entirety of the year. And now you're adding 2 new guys to the mix. That's just a recipe for a mediocre day.
I put this at a 5 out of 10. It's a toss up. I think it either goes one way or the other. It's either going to be, they did enough. I don't think it's going to be excellent. I don't think it's going to be poor, but I think you're going to find a way to lean towards one way or the other. And it's a toss up for me because look at the 2 games where they had to shuffle linemen. Louisville, they were horrible. Clemson, they were, really bad in the second half. Sam Hartman had a pressure rate of like 62% in that game. There was a lot of continuous pressure on Sam Hartman. And so, I don't think that this line is going to be, the Wake Forest's defensive line is not going to be as good or as talented as Louisville's or Clemson's for sure. But with the discontinuity and based off of prior samples of seeing guys kind of inserted, I don't have a ton of confidence until they start playing. So I got to go with the 5 out of 10.
I'm at least curious to see the physicality that maybe these guys can provide. But that's, the question is, what's my confidence, not my curiosity. So, my confidence is right along the lines of what you guys were talking about. I'll just play it in the middle and go 5.5. But I am, the interior has been one of the bigger issues. Are they going to get more push up the middle with these guys? I will be curious because, as you said, like Wake Forest and Stanford next week, if the same guys end up playing, it's a lot different than Clemson. At least Clemson had legitimate guys up front, who could cause some of that. But so my confidence is right there in the 5.5 range. And really, it's amazing to me because, like, when you look at metrics like sacks allowed, they don't allow a lot of tackles for loss. But, like when you look at deeper actual metrics, pressure rates, all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of pressure. But I think Sam Hartman has actually helped to some extent getting rid of the ball, even though obviously he's thrown more interceptions lately as well. Most of them are on him. But like the fact that they're up for the Joe Moore Award, I guess is what I'm leading to. I don't even know if I said that. Like it's amazing that they're up for that award when you look at the actual performance that they've got.
More surprising, the Joe Moore Award or Maris and the Butkus Award?
Oh, it's Maris and the Butkus Award by leaps and bounds. By leaps and bounds.
But it's a legit question. I would go Maris, though, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I was shocked by both, if I'm being honest, right? I was absolutely shocked by both because this is not a traditional Notre Dame offensive line. It's just not.
It's not the standard that you're used to.
No, it's not. Maybe they're good compared to maybe some other offensive lines, but
we know. We've seen it year in and year out.
And I will also say this, okay, in case, Ashton's mom is listening or, whatever. I think Ashton Craig and Billy Shroud are the future of this offensive line. And I think they're going to be really, really good players. It's just a tough ask to come in game 11, with an established
also a big opportunity.
Because the starting five has started all 10 games so far. This is going to be the first different offensive line that takes the field at the start of the game, even though they've mixed some of these guys in a little bit. You're exactly right, because what's supposed to be, one of the keys to playing offensive line, the cohesiveness, all five guys being able to play together. And, you talk about the center and making the calls and all that kind of stuff. It's tough. I guess at least Craig has had some extra time to kind of prepare for this, but and the Kristofic is healthy now as well. And I wonder, does he end up kind of mixing in to this group as well, the way they've done things?
Is he reportedly healthy?
According to Freeman on Thursday, he is. Freeman was saying a high ankle sprain, because he got injured right away in that Clemson game. But on Thursday, Marcus Freeman said that it was just Zeke Correll in concussion protocol. That was like the only one. He's the only guy, with any issues going into this game. That everybody else was clear.
Not to go down the rabbit hole, but a high ankle sprain, that's a tough ask. Coming back this quickly. Number one,
usually you can't walk still.
Right, and number two, I always found it interesting. Like I felt. When they brought in Kristofic in at center, when Correll went down, I just felt like they were trying to do a solid for a fifth-year guy. Still think Ashton Craig is a better center. And so I'm interested to see kind of what that dynamic, because maybe Kristofic isn't 100%. And it's like, well, if all things were even, maybe we go with Kristofic because he's the fifth-year guy or whatever. But we're going to go with Ashton Craig here because he's probably not 100%.
Bill Parcells in Dallas probably hastened the end of Julius Jones's career, because Julius, and this is from a Dallas Cowboys guy, who's been there for a long time that I talked to about this. Julius had a high ankle sprain, but this was kind of before guys really knew what high ankle sprain meant. And Bill Parcells, being an old school Bill Parcells, was like, ankle sprain, get out there, wrap it up, go. It's like, and that did Julius no favors.
Yeah,
when it was all.
Well, I mean, look at Joe Burrow last night. He obviously had a pre-existing wrist thing, and it took just one tweak, and now he's out for the season.
Yep, that's right. Should Notre Dame ever wear all white uniforms again? I know you guys talked about this earlier this week, but I'm curious. Do you want me to just go ahead?
Why don't you give your opinion? Because yesterday or on Thursday, he and I talked about it, so people know what our opinion is.
I like the look, and I kind of agree with what you guys were saying. Like it really is kind of better on a turf field, because then you don't get the grass stains kind of mucking it up, and it stays really icy sharp looking. But I like it. I do hope they wear it more. I know what happens, when they roll out a new uniform look and you lose. Stupid. Nobody ever wants to see him again. Even though people still, shoot down the green and all that kind of stuff. They've had a lot more success in the green in recent years, obviously with the exception of this year. But that's also the first time they've worn the all green. But I like the white look. I like, alternate uniforms every now and then, where you can still kind of keep it classic looking. And I think that it's a really good look. I was shocked that they did it against Clemson, but I would like to see it again.
I would definitely like to see more of it. I'm a big fan of the white on white. And like Vince and I talked about, I think you can just do like a little things here and there to accent it, like put a green shamrock on the hip, on the pants, or like maybe a green shamrock also on the shoulders as well, and maybe a green stripe going down the side of the pants. Like there's just a little bit I think you can do, but I don't think they will. I think that's Notre Dame. They stay in the simplicity of things, right? Like look at the rest of their uniforms, not a whole lot going on, very traditionalist. So I don't mind them, and I think that they were really cool, and I was excited. I wish that it wouldn't even gotten leaked until we saw them running out on the field, but unfortunately, things always get leaked.
Social media age. There's nothing you can
Well,
do
I mean,
with that.
Notre Dame's the one that put it out. Like they took a picture of Sam Hartman's locker and like put it out. So I mean, they leaked it themselves because I didn't hear about it until that actually occurred. To be honest, I didn't like it. I friggin' loved it. Like I loved the white on white, man. I am so on board. I hope they continue it.
Just throw some green numbers on there. That would like top it off.
Little green accent. Jesse, I agree about that. I think a little green accent would be awesome. I think it was fantastic. I wouldn't mind seeing them whip out the green. The white pants at home every now and again. And the whole when they wear this they lose. Well, then they better not wear blue and gold at home because they've lost in those more times than they lost in green. Like that's the dumbest argument I've ever heard.
That's I mean that's a great point. You wear a base uniform. You win some, you lose some in the base uniform. So what? You're just supposed to just scrap that combination and go to something else because you lose a game?
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Vince and I talked about this. Do you feel like if you're going to go monochromatic, white is the only instance where you should go monochromatic?
I didn't mind the green as much as some people, but I do think all white is the best monochromatic that you can find. I generally don't like the, dark colored, especially I would never like to see them wear blue. But
like, for instance,
they wore freaking pinstripes in a game once. So it's like, I won't put it past them to do anything at this point.
For instance, Vince, like the Cubs City Edition jerseys, the dark blue tops and the dark blue bottoms, like,
did not.
I love the top, but it's like, you got to do something else with the bottom.
I am generally not a fan of dark baseball pants, and I know we're verging away here, but I will say this: I was 5 seconds away from placing an order for navy blue and gold pinstripes for my Riley baseball team, and then I got the job at Penn, and so that order never went through. But I was a stone's throw away, man, and I had it all figured out, and I thought it looked pretty good. But I am generally not a fan of the darker colored pants, and I do not. The green on green was fine. Same. I think it would have looked a heck of a lot better with white pants, though.
Yeah. I agree. That I agree with. Yeah, that would have looked really good.
Yeah,
actually, white pants with green stripe down the side.
Oh yeah, that would have been sick. That would have been fantastic. I would have
stone cold. All right, some game props. Notre Dame minus 24.5 in this game. You guys like them covering?
Big spread, going to keep it short. Defense is going to not allow a lot of points. Offense is going to find a way to get some points like they did against Pitt. I think they cover.
It's a big number. 24.5 is a big number. I think that they should cover. I think they will score some points. I think defense is going to show us what they're made of. So I'll say that they cover. They should cover. But I'm not lying. I would not be surprised if they didn't, but they should.
I know.
They should cover.
That's the thing. It's like I at least feel better about this game because I just don't see Wake Forest offense being able to contribute.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Agreed.
So like Notre Dame should be able to score at least 25 points by themselves. Really, they should be able to get to 28 pretty easily. 4 touchdowns against Wake Forest, and I don't see Wake being able to contribute that much. The game over-under is 46.5. Notre Dame's over-under is 35.5. Wake's over-under is 10.5. Like, do you guys like any of those numbers?
I like Notre Dame's over and Wake Forest's under. It's going to give a peek into my score prediction coming up.
Wow.
But
I agree with that, actually. I completely agree. I've got Notre Dame over, I've got Wake Forest under, and I've got the game total just a little bit over as well, 46.5.
I got game total. I have as the under though. I think that
okay.
Notre Dame's gonna have to do like 95% of pulling the weight here in terms of the team over. Or
Well, that
the
I
game over.
completely agree with, but I've still
Yeah.
got the game total going
I
over.
believe I'm gonna have to look up my score prediction.
This is the best game of the week, Vince. What did
know.
I predict 2
I
days
don't
ago?
know.
What was my prediction again?
Because they asked us to do it so far in advance, and I've suspended so many kids since then. So I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe my total game is over the 46.5, and I feel fairly confident about that. And as far as Notre Dame is concerned, I believe I have them under, but I have Wake over. Believe it or not. So,
It took me like 15 minutes to find the email that I sent to Brian with our predictions.
I know, right?
Remember the score, because
Found
I
it.
always remember like
Found
what ballpark I was in, but I obviously want to know the exact number.
Found it. Okay, I was right. It was under for Notre Dame, over for Wake Forest. But again, I would not be surprised if they were under 10.5. It's going to be really hard for them to score points in this game. It just is.
Yep. Hartman's passing yards over under 242.5 yards, 2.5 touchdown passes.
Well, we know Jesse's going over on the yard.
Yeah, baby. 303 touchdowns. Give me the over on both.
Man, I just
I'm
I'm under on both.
Notre Dame scored over 50 points in the
He's due
last
for one.
game where they scored a bunch of points, and he didn't throw for any touchdowns.
I know.
Okay, like how did that happen? That's the one thing I needed in my parlay, and it didn't happen. Okay.
Yeah.
So
like where are the passes going if he's going to get over 242
and here's the other thing.
and a half
If
yards?
if they are successful running the
Lot of
football,
yak
that's
yards.
that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
They're going to run the football. I'm taking under on both too.
Yeah. I just don't see it. I think he'll have 2 touchdown passes, but I mean, I've been saying that for a month now. So
Seriously, taking the alternate.
Chris Tyrie's over under is 46.5.
They've
Always-
increased that a little
yeah.
bit because it was
Always
always in
gonna
the
take-
30s.
Always
Okay.
going to take the over, though.
It's a little high for me, to be honest with you. They're not giving him the ball enough. Maybe the self-scouting that they did
That's what I mean.
during
Maybe
the
that
bye week.
changes this week.
I'll take the over just because I love Chris Tyrie.
I'm going to go over because that's the play. Like if they have figured anything out, Chris Tyrie has to get over 46.5 yards. But I guess we'll find out. Rico Flores, interestingly, made it this week. The latest second receiver to show up in Vegas, 29.5 yards for Rico.
That's so
I've got to
low.
go under on this one personally.
I haven't been impressed with anything that Rico or Jaden has been able to do. Teams have been able to shut them down now that they are part of the game plan, because in the past they're not part of the game plan. And so teams were, they were catching the ball and they were doing all that. Now they're starters. And whether you like it or not, and I don't, but they're starting, they're part of the game plan. I'm taking the under as well.
Give me the over.
Ooh.
He's
When
going to
you
have
got
to be
when you
over
got
if he hits
Sam
300.
300,
Yeah.
give me the over.
He's throwing it somewhere.
Just can't
Listen, he's
do it.
only missed in games where he was a true starter. He's only missed this mark 4 out of like 9 times. So he's still on the positive side of it. And
He's
I
been
think Sam
starting.
Hartman.
He started 9 games.
Oh,
I don't think he
Rico?
started 9, has he?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 8. So 4 of 8. He's a 50-50 shot on
Really?
this.
He started
Wow.
8 games? That's crazy to me. All right.
Interesting.
I'm not saying I don't believe you. It just surprises me.
Audric Estim&e,
Hmm.
96.5 rushing yards.
Over.
Take the over on this one as well.
They're
He's
gonna
done
let
it
him
just about
hammer it.
every game.
This could be his last home game.
Correct.
We obviously don't know. I would say, like, if I had to wager on that, I would say it is going to be because he's a junior and, all
Give him
the
the
wear and
rock.
tear on running backs. And that's right. Go get
His
your money.
stock is at the highest right now.
I think that, even though like it was looking like he was well on his way to it 2 weeks ago and it still didn't happen, but I'm going to go over. I'm going to say Audric hits the century mark.
I was going to say he's 22 away. So
Yep. All right. It's time to make a prediction. What do you guys have?
I will take the lead on this one, Vince.
Do it.
Sam Hartman is going to come out they're going to throw the ball. The offense is going to look better. We're going to get these playmakers the ball a little bit. Chris Tyrie is going to have some catches. Rico Flores is going to have some catches. I think you're going to see the emergence of Jaden Greathouse again, some more catches. I think you're going to have Audric Estim maybe the Punisher as usual, that consistency of 80 to 110 yards. Definitely a touchdown in there mixed in. I have a 41-3 victory in Notre Dame.
Man.
Okay, 41-3.
And the defense obviously is going to do its thing if they're only giving up 3 points.
Well, granted. Okay, so I'm a little bit different. And I think I almost want to walk back how much I've got Wake Forest scoring, but I'm a little low on Notre Dame's end because I just don't have a whole lot of faith. Like, are they capable of scoring a bunch of points in this game? Absolutely, they're capable. They've let me down enough times where I'm just not willing to get on the horse and ride it into the 40s. Like, I'm just not there. And so I think
50
that
burger.
No, I'm saying 31. I'm saying Notre Dame scores 31. Again, would I be surprised if they put up a 50 burger? No, I wouldn't, because I think they can. I absolutely think they can. But I'm supposed to predict the score. And so I think they get 31. So that's 4 touchdowns and a field goal. I've got Wake Forest at 17, which like I said, I think that might be a little high, but I also think that there's going to be some opportunity for a lot of twos to get in this game. And so maybe they give up a garbage touchdown. Maybe they, Wake Forest keeps the ones in. They score on the twos, like that kind of a situation. So 31-17 Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's twos are better than Wake Forest zeros.
So I've got Notre Dame 38-10. And, again, first time starting quarterback, guy who's played in a handful of games over the last 5 years against Notre Dame's defense. I think Notre Dame's defense is going to be a big part of this. It's not going to be all on the offense to make these points happen. I do think Sam Hartman is going to have at least a decent day. I don't think he's going to have a great day. I think it's going to be an Audric Estim&eacute kind of day. But I do believe that, I've been saying for 2 seasons now, get Chris Tyrie the football.
Yep.
And I think that again, I'm assuming that they're going to come to some kind of senses and they're going to get Chris Tyrie the football. And Chris Tyrie is going to have a nice day. And 38-10 is my prediction.
I like it.
Kind of in between you guys.
You're taking a touchdown away from Wake Forest and you're giving it to Notre Dame. That's the only difference between you and me. It's the only difference.
That's right. We're all the same.
Good. I'm on board.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Notre Dame and Wake Forest. Enjoy the game. And, of course, we will talk to you next week. It'll be a little bit of a short week next week. I can't believe Thanksgiving is almost here. Like we started the show talking about how fast this season has gone. We're on the verge of Thanksgiving. Right.
Hey, everybody on the board. It's my wife's birthday next week. I need ideas. Hit me with some ideas. Boy. Okay. You can DM me or whatever on Twitter.
Candlesticks make a nice gift.
On the board. Well, that's what they say in Bull Durham. I need ideas, fellas. I need ideas. Help me.
Help me. Past a place setting at this point. So.
Place settings are the devil.
Do you like pedicures, manicures? Any of that kind of stuff?
I mean that's a kind of
massage?
A go-to.
Massage?
Done those, those are kind of a go-to. It's hard to buy for a woman that you've
get creative, Vince.
Don't make her a coupon. Don't do like the homemade coupon, and I'll do like
no. That was like when we were dating.
Mani-pedi, facial massage.
Why don't you make a nice homemade dinner?
And if like doing the dishes would be like that's where we're at. Like that would be huge for her if I did that.
You could do that every day, Vince. Come on.
I could.
I mean, I'm guessing the excuse is, honey, by the time I get home, you've already done the dishes. What am I going to do?
Amazing what happens. Good. Well, they usually sit overnight and then I'm gone. I'm at work.
That's it. All right. We will talk to you next week on IB Nation Sports Talk.